Now we all know that if you want to play great golf, you're going to want to shallow that club out in the transition, get the club coming from the inside or in the slot, and that makes golf way easier. Well, I've put together 3 of my all-time best videos on helping you to shallow that club up, get it in the slot, and hit some great power draws out there and make golf a whole heck of a lot more fun. Let's go ahead and get started. One of the most common problems in golf is rushing the downswing. You get to the top of the swing, you feel like you got to go at it 100 miles an hour. How can we smooth out the transition? How can we have a nice smooth swing and still get that distance? If you feel like you're slowing down your swing, but you're losing 20 or 30 yards off the tee, it makes no difference. So I'm gonna show you how to have a smooth but powerful golf swing, and I got 3 tips for you. Let's go and get started. All right, so tip number 1, we gotta make sure that we really load up. This is something we call a power turn in the top speed golf system. And basically what this means is, as we go to the top of the swing, my hips need to turn about 45 degrees, and that's gonna allow my shoulders to turn at least 90 degrees. Now I got a great test for you to see if you're doing this correctly. I want you to go ahead and I want you to turn your shoulders as much as possible. Don't move your hips at all. Turn your shoulders as much as possible. You'll feel really tight through your midsection here. Feel all that complete stretch. Well, that's your full range of motion, and you're gonna feel really tight like that. Now go ahead and relax a little bit, just a few degrees from that. Now I'm relaxed. I'm still stretched out through here, but I've got another 5 or 10 degrees as I'm going back to the top. Now in the golf swing and the backswing, I really want to make sure that I do both of those things. So number 1, I'm going to turn to the top here. Let's actually put a club across your shoulders. I'm going to turn all the way to the top here, and I'm going to get my shoulders to turn at least 90 degrees. So the butt end of my club is now pointing to the right of the golf ball, a little bit down to the ground like this, right? So now I've got a good full turn, but I'm not all the way full at my full range of motion. I'm going to go ahead and let the hips turn enough to where I'm about 90%. So I could go a little bit extra if I wanted to. So I'm getting at least to 90, but the hips have rotated enough to where now I don't feel like I'm completely locked up. If my hips don't rotate, let's imagine I keep my hips more toward the ball. Now I'm full range of motion and I'm not all the way to the top of the swing. I gotta let those hips rotate a little bit more so that not only I'm getting at least to 90, but I'm also fairly relaxed as I get to the top. The reason for this is, as you start your downswing, we're actually gonna get the hips to start to lead the way a little bit. They're gonna start the transition, they're gonna get things going, and if I'm fully locked up as I get to the top, I'm not gonna have that extra forgiveness to build even more power in the downswing. So when we do that, when we get that good hip and shoulder rotation, what that does is it allows you to get a good full swing in the backswing. So imagine I'm getting a very long arc, a big path going in the backswing, and now I have a lot of room to accelerate as I'm starting the downswing. Probably the best visual for this is, imagine you have a drag car. We got 2 drag cars, and they're both gonna go, let's say 1,000 yards. Well, now imagine I pulled this drag car back to where it got a 100-yard head start. Well, it's gonna beat the other drag car every time. It's already got some momentum going. If you're making a short backswing, not completing your shoulder turn, my hands are low, and I'm gonna feel like I really have to rush from the top. I'm gonna get quick every single time. If I load up my hips and shoulders, now I've got a lot of space to accelerate in the downswing, and I'm gonna feel like I have more time. I'm gonna be smoother applying that power. So check 2 things for me. Number 1, are my hips and shoulders turning 45 with the hips, at least 90 with the shoulders, a little bit more is extra? And have I turned the hips enough to where I still feel like I have a little bit of play between the upper and lower body? That's gonna allow me to get this good full turn, but still feel nice and relaxed as I'm doing that. You'll feel a little tight, but you don't wanna be 100% locked. Now, the second part of this is I don't want to have my body firing from the top right away. I want to make sure that the very first move as I start my downswing, I'm allowing this club to shallow a little bit, and I'm kind of moving into the ground. So here's at the top, here's my backswing plane. As I start down, I'm going to have a little bit of a shallowing of this club, and my left wrist is going to be starting to bow out like that. So I'm starting to close the club face also. When I do this, it looks something like this. There's that shallowing and bowing of the club. Now I got a position where I have a lot of lag. I'm kind of feeling like I'm bending it down into the ground, and then I'm gonna whip that on through contact, release all that into what I call my straight line release in the top speed golf system. So we wanna make sure that we're nice and soft as we start down and allow that club to shallow a bit, and that's gonna get us in a position to where we can really whip that club on through, and it's gonna be on the plane that we're gonna have coming into the downswing. A good way to visualize this, videotape yourself from down the line, and your club should be tracing down your right forearm if you're looking from the down the line perspective. So I'm not making a swing here, so I can't get it exactly correct, but that's about where I want to be coming down my forearm. And that's going to allow me to really get that club in a position where I can whip it through contact. So focus on those 2 keys. Do about 100 repetitions, practicing that good full shoulder turn, getting those hips to rotate in the backswing. Number 2, I'm going to let that club shallow out. My left wrist is going to be starting to bow at this point. Right wrist is cupping back. And now I'm in a position to where now I can really turn on the power in the second half of the swing. I can still have power but be smooth at the same time. Let's go ahead and try that out. Good full shoulder turn. As I shallow this club out, you're going to see it looks like it's got quite a bit of lag in there too, which is an added bonus. Let's give it a whirl. There we go, I got good power with that one. Didn't feel like I had to rush the swing at all, nice and smooth. You're going to get some good distance. Try out those keys. You guys are going to be feeling better over top of the ball. All right guys, everybody wants to know how to get that great weight shift from the top. Start the downswing perfectly so you can compress the golf ball and everything just feels a lot easier. When you're out of sync, you feel like you're all discombobulated, the hands and arms and waist, everything's moving differently, then we really struggle. So in this video, I'm going to really walk you through it. We're going to talk about the up and down motion of the golf swing and how you shift your weight up and down throughout the swing. We're going to talk about the weight shift left and right, and then we're also going to talk about the rotation and all of this, kind of how you're starting the downswing properly when you're doing that. So I'm going to get into a little bit of detail. I'm really going to break it down piece by piece in the beginning, but don't be overwhelmed. If it starts to seem a little bit too complicated or a little bit too in-depth, don't worry. At the end, I'm going to tie all that together, give you one great simple drill to do to get that great transition and start of the downswing coming all the way into the finish. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, the first thing we'll talk about here is the up and down motion. So if we just isolate everything else and look at just how our body moves up and down throughout the swing, it's very important. So at address, as I'm kind of setting up here, if I get rid of the golf club, I'm just kind of athletic stance. I got a little bit of knee bend, my chest is slightly down. I'm kind of like I'm almost playing shortstop, not quite as low as I would be, but just a little bit like that, or just kind of a relaxed defensive position in basketball. Now, as I swing to the top of the swing, what actually happens here, as I continue my backswing, I'm going to load up a little bit more into the ground. And that's almost like you're going to be jumping. So as I'm loading up, I'm almost kind of preparing to drive upward and jump, which will be the end part of the swing. But just realize pretty much all PGA Tour golfers, all pro golfers are at least staying level or dropping down a little bit. You don't really see guys that raise up in the backswing. So if we watch that, this is kind of this motion where my head drops a little bit. Here's my address, here's the top of the backswing. Now this is what's important. After we get loaded up at the top of the backswing, as we start to rotate through and rotate into the finish, what's actually happening, if you watch those tour players again, as they get to that nice finish, you'll notice how their chest to their lower body, all that is flat. If you looked at their shirt buttons, it's actually going to be facing a little bit up toward the sky here, and they're in this nice extended position, really, really balanced over the lead foot. Well, if I took out all the rotation, I took out all the weight shift, and I just looked at that, here's address, here's the top of my backswing, and then my finish would be like this. My chest is extended. And that's really important in the golf swing because I have to get this club to whip through contact. I have to get this club to turn back up so that I can really accelerate on through there and into the finish. So let's break that down. What am I doing in the transition? Well, number one, as I'm going into the backswing, I'm actually dropping down a little bit. As I start my downswing, I'm kind of staying down. So that's the key. I don't want to start popping up into that position right away. I want to stay down in my transition, and I'm only extending as I'm coming through the ball and toward the target. I don't extend toward the ball, I extend toward the target as I'm coming on through. So that's piece number one. As you're starting that downswing, stay down, wait until you're coming through the ball to start extending back up. Piece number two is going to be my right to left transition. So if we're looking at the address here, my weight's about 50-50. You could favor the right side a little bit if you want to. Most players aren't all the way over on their left at address, but this is the least important piece. What's really important is what you do from there. As I start my backswing, my weight's going to shift to the inside of my right foot. So you can kind of imagine the pressure on the inside of your foot. It's going to favor the right ankle as you get more halfway back into the swing. So as I start to make my weight shift, as my left arm is about halfway back, that's about the max your weight's going to shift to the right. As you continue the backswing, this is the real key here. If you want to have that good transition, as I continue the backswing and start my downswing, my weight is already well on its way forward in the swing. So if I have a little step here, we can imagine I'm going to step. As I start to continue my backswing, I'm going to step forward. So see how as I'm making my backswing continue, I'm finishing off my backswing and starting my downswing, my weight shift is already starting to the front. So if you watch this drill, we'll do a slow motion video here. Watch when my foot starts to step forward. I'm pull my feet together. You notice my front foot starts to step as my arms and hands are still going back. That's crucial for a good start to the downswing. If I'm at the top of my swing and I'm waiting till I start down to start to shift my weight to the left, it's way too late. You're going to end up throwing your arms at it. You're going to end up being very late. You're going to end up flipping the shot. So that's the key there. I have to start my transition to the left in the back half of my backswing, and as I start my downswing, my weight is already shifting over that direction. It's very important though, don't start to slide way in front. I don't want to get way out here in front of the golf ball. Again, I'm going to have to kind of stand up and flip to reach that ball. It's just a small weight shift. My body's angled back, and then I can push into my left leg and rotate on through. As I get to that good tall finish position again, my weight's balanced on my left side. Notice how I don't have any weight on my right foot. Maybe 10% of my weight's on my right foot, but everything's just kind of stacked over my left side, nice and balanced. High chest again. That's that great weight shift. So when we put these two together, or when we simplify that, weight shift starts in the last half of the downswing. As you start the downswing, weight shift starts in the last half of the backswing. As you start the downswing, your weight should already be going to the left. That's a real critical move. And to try that out, make sure you go ahead and do that step drill and time that up. Now, last piece here is rotation. If you can imagine, if I'm going to jump up and twist my body, so if I'm going to jump and turn this way, what's actually happening there, I'm going to get a little bit sciencey here, but we're going to make it way simpler in the end. If I want to turn this way, my foot has to push that way, or my right foot has to turn that way, my left foot has to push that way. Imagine you're taking your fingers on a bottle cap and you're trying to twist them to the right or to the left. That's the direction as it happens. So as I push this way with my foot, so as this foot pushes that way, that foot pushes that way, that's going to be me turning this way. An easier way to think about this is just go ahead and set up and actually twist your feet to the right. That's the backswing. As I start my downswing, I'm going to load up. Notice how if I want to twist the other way, I can rotate my hips, and then I'm going to twist to the left. That's all that's happening. So in the golf swing, I'm pushing with my feet, letting my right leg straighten a little bit. My hips are now turning. That's going to allow me to get that good full shoulder turn as I go to the top. As I start my transition, remember at this point, as I start my downswing, my weight's already shifting to the left. Now my weight's in my left foot. I'm going to push out that direction and let my hips clear out of the way. So let's just simplify that a bit, not to get too far off track with the feet pushing into the ground. What do I need to feel with this? Well, in the backswing, I need to feel like my hips are really rotating early. I want to get my hips going off the ball. I want to go ahead and get that rotation happening so that when I get to the start of the downswing, my weight shift is already going to the left and my hips are already opening up a little bit. A great way to know if you're doing this correctly, if you watch your swing, as you come to impact, your right foot should be barely coming off the ground a little bit. If my right heel is still on the ground at impact and a little past impact, now I know that I don't have the rotation that I need in my swing. I need to go ahead and let that foot come up. I'm pushing with this left foot, letting that right heel come up, and now I can get that rotation. Again, as I come all the way on through, now my right shoulder is going to feel like it's facing down the target. My chest is nice and high to the left. My belt buckle on my pants is facing straight ahead to my target in the distance there. So I know that's a lot of detail. We're going into probably too much detail there, but I thought I'd just go through and answer some questions. Now let's simplify. What do I do in the transition? To break those pieces down, let's go ahead and do 10 swings here. Number one, as I start my downswing, my weight is staying down. I'm holding that until I come through the shot, and then I'm going to extend. That's the up and down piece. Number two is my weight shift going to the left. As I start my downswing, my weight shift should already be moving to the left. My left foot should feel like it has some pressure in it. Then I can start my downswing and come on through. As I do my rotation should already be going to the left as I start my downswing, and then I'm going to be able to rotate on through to a good full finish. Great way to check this, even simpler than that. At the top of the swing, you should be rotated. Good full shoulder turn, everything is staying down. As you finish, everything is nice and high, weight balance on the left leg, right toe straight up and down, and now you got a great feeling of what the transition should be like. One last drill to take this and make it easy. Let's do that step drill a good 20 or 30 times. Put our feet together, step forward as you're going back, and then come to that good full finish. I've found that if you can do this step drill and have that nice and synced up, and your finish looks really good, everything else just kind of falls into balance. As long as you turn on your backswing and you do that step drill right, you really don't have to worry too much about the transition. It's just going to happen all on its own. All right, guys, hit that one pretty well. How do we start the downswing and get into the slot? Everybody wants to get in the slot. That ensures that your club is going to be delivered squarely to the golf ball with a lot of power. So the way we're going to think of the slot is when I'm coming in my downswing, and the big piece of this is getting the camera lined up correctly. So I want to line up the camera behind my body, shooting through my toes and then out to my distance, out to the target in the distance. If my camera's set up to where it's too far this way or it's too far that way, it's not going to be lined up to where I can really see if the club's in the slot or not. But what I want to do is I want to go ahead and have this club working down my forearm in the downswing. So this club shaft is coming through my forearm, and the club head will be kind of traveling through my forearm. And I'm going in slow motion here, so I'm not sure I have this exactly right. But that should be basically traveling down through my forearm into the release through the ball. And that ensures that I'm coming into the ball correctly. Now if I'm steep, if my club shaft is over top of my forearm, that would be kind of an over the top type move. Or some people get steep and they kind of back up out of it. If you're losing your posture, that's very common. You're getting steep and then having to move back out of the way. Because if I was steep and then I just kept on going down, I would just slam the club into the ground. So I got to back up out of it to create space. That would be too steep. It would also be an over the top kind of slice would be too steep this way. If I'm too shallow or underneath, now my club's getting stuck in under, I'm blocking out to the right, or I'm hitting some of those snap hooks that really start to turn over, or you just miss them a mile out that way. So either way, we're gonna have a little bit of trouble. So the first key is, what starts our downswing? What's a good visual to start a downswing that we can actually take out to the range? And then second, what's a good way to feel how I get into the slot? So to start the downswing, the thing that I would recommend, let me grab this tee so I can set up another ball. I would recommend feeling like you have a 2,000 pound concrete ball or steel ball, and it's the center of your hips is the middle of that ball. So it's just kind of wrapped around your body. And as I start this downswing, I'm gonna feel like I do that with my lower body. My legs and my hips are gonna get that ball starting to kind of rotate. Now you imagine a 2,000 pound ball, I'm not gonna be able to rotate that very fast. I'm just talking about building momentum. The lower body, the big pieces, the big muscles of your body create momentum in the swing so that my arms and hands and club can add speed to that. They can add the snap at the end of the momentum. So feel like in your downswing, I'm gonna go ahead and get a little bit of a weight shift to the left, start that ball rotating, and then at that point I'm gonna be in the slot and I can go ahead and release my hands and arms, get a lot of that snap and that speed. So now how do we feel like we're in the slot? Well, I got a great little drill for you. If I go ahead and set up my club like I'm gonna swing it like a baseball bat, if I set it up in front of my right shoulder, I'll try to get it lined up as well as I can with the camera. This left arm is going to be nice and straight. It's going to look like that. My left wrist is going to be flat or even a little bit bowed. And then my club face, my club head, or let's talk about the right arm first. My right elbow is going to be pointing up. My back of my elbow is going to be pointing toward my hip. My palm is going to be up toward the sky like that. Now from there, this club is going to be down below that a little bit. So if I'm swinging this baseball bat, it's dropping below it slightly and then kicking up square. So it's slightly below that. Now you notice if I go this way and I get into that position, slightly below with my club head, as I tilt forward, now that's in the slot. I'm perfectly on line with my forearm. So again, it's about right shoulder height. My hands are just below my shoulder if I had to get really technical with it. This club is going to dip down about, let's call it 10 degrees. My right arm is up, and then from there I'm going to hinge forward, and now I'm in this position where I would have a bunch of lag and my club's coming down in the slot. So the way I'm going to practice this is I'm going to make 4 or 5 swings, first working on momentum. Imagine that big ball around my hips. It has a bunch of weight, so once I get that momentum going, I can add to that with my hands and arms. So I'm just going to do a couple little practice swings, feeling that, then swinging on through. After I've done about 5 of those, now I'm going to do the one where I get in the slot here. get in that same position. I'm gonna hinge forward with my hips. You'll notice as I start to videotape from down the line, that's about where it needs to be as far as coming into the slot. In slow motion, it may not be perfect there, but we get the idea. 5 or 6 of those swings, and then I'm gonna ready to put those two pieces together and get a good momentum, start the downswing in the right way, and then be in the slot where I can go ahead and rip this golf ball. There we go, guys. Work on starting the downswing the right way, getting in the slot. You're gonna play some great golf. All right guys, hope y'all really enjoyed this video. If you did, I got an awesome bonus for you. We all want lots of lag in our golf swing. It's so crucial to have tons of lag to be able to get that high club head speed and to be able to drive it past your friends. I'm gonna play a preview from one of my most important golf lag videos. If you're on a desktop device, you can go ahead and click the link that pops up on your screen. If you're on a phone or a tablet, you go ahead and click the iCard and you're gonna get instant access to that video. Plus, you're gonna get instant access to 5 videos from our Top Speed Golf system. Good luck to you guys. Go out there and rip the ball. Hi guys, and welcome back. I'm Ballard, and in today's video we're going to talk about one of the absolute worst drills for creating lag. It's a very common drill that I see, and in this drill what we're going to do is we're going to set the wrist very early to create an angle of lag, and then we're going to try to hold this throughout the swing. It's one of the worst things that you can do to build lag. I'm going to talk about the science behind why this is the case, and I'm also going to give you a great drill to help you improve your lag, all in this video. Let's go ahead and get started. If I do it this way versus holding that position, exact same thing happens when we're building lag in the golf swing. So what we want to do is throughout the swing, I want to have a very low and wide takeaway. So I'm not going to set my wrist early at all. If you look at a lot of the top players, you look at Adam Scott, very wide takeaway, not very much wrist set at all. You look at Rory McIlroy, you look at Tiger Woods. All these players are using a wide takeaway and not getting very much wrist set, so that later in the swing, as we start down, we can increase this wrist set, and we're really only going to max out this angle of lag for a split second in the downswing. Okay, so a 3-step drill here. Now, as we get started with this, I want to remind you that the fulcrum in this golf club for getting a massive amount of lag is right at the end of the golf club. This is where